saying that. Even union leaders have admitted to it. Listen to what former general counsel of the NEA, the National Education Association, which is the largest union in the United States, once said about putting power before children.
Despite what some among us would like to believe, it is not because we care about children, and it is not because we have a vision of a great public school for every child. NEA and its affiliates are effective advocates because we have power. And we have power because there are more than 3.2 million people who are willing to pay us hundreds of millions of dollars in dues each year.
Unbelievable. That is the lawyer for the largest union in the United States. You can't make this stuff up. If you put that in a script, in a movie, no one would find it believable. Joining us now with more facts about unions you might not know about is Tim Phillips, president of Americans for Prosperity. Tim, it's a pleasure. Welcome back to the Glenn Beck program. I mean, this guy that we just listened to is really unbelievable. It's about the millions of dollars in dues, and it's about our power. It's not about what we do for the kids. Question, is that typical of labor union leadership of public sector unions in the United States of America today, Tim?
Judge, too often these union bosses do put their own health care pensions and benefits and salaries above the public good. And they want to tell us that they're sacrificing to work in the public sector, but their salaries, pensions, and benefits are far beyond what taxpayers in the private sector receive. You bet it is.
Tell me how the following phenomenon occurs, and the governor of my own home state of New Jersey, Chris Christie, has been at the forefront of this. He has basically said to the teachers union, the workers, the teachers, I have nothing against you folks. It's the leadership of your union that has taken these dues from you and used it for political means and given themselves these fantastic salaries and these wonderful benefits. So question, how do hardworking, blue-collar, salt-of-the-earth people elect these crazies to lead their unions like the guy we just listened to?
Too often these union bosses achieve power through the backroom games and deals. It's not the most democratic process sometimes in these government unions. And I think that taxpayers need to support folks like Governor Christie and Governor Walker in Wisconsin, who are putting the taxpayers first. And they're saying, look, these pensions and benefits for the union bosses they've negotiated are out of control, and we've got to rein them in. It's unsustainable fiscally, and it's unfair for them to receive more than the taxpayers who are funding them.
What are some of the myths about unions that are sort of out there that most people generally accept because they haven't had the opportunity to look beneath the myth?
One is that collective bargaining is some kind of sacred right for public employees. In fact, federal employees do not have collective bargaining, and no less than Franklin Delano Roosevelt said we should never have collective bargaining for public employees because it leads to inefficiencies and waste and puts too much power into the hands of the unions. And FDR was certainly no union buster, Judge. I think that's a big myth. The second big myth is that, again, they take a financial sacrifice to work for the public good. And that's just not true. Their salaries, pensions, benefits are far beyond what folks in the private sector receive. A federal worker, the average federal worker, receives $123,000 a year before you add in pensions and benefits. That's hardly sacrifice.
Got to be well above the national average for whatever the comparable job would be in the private sector. How did this happen? I mean, are some Republicans at fault for this as well because they sort of gave into the temptation of giving the unions good, juicy, big, fat contracts in return for votes in the hopes that the type of thing we see in Wisconsin and the type of conversation you and I are having now would never come to the public's attention?
That's exactly right. Both parties have been susceptible to this union pressure. And think about it. You're in Wisconsin. The union boss sitting across the table from you as an elected official represents 150,000 people across the state. They're all paying forced dues. They have a big payroll to pump into the elections. Most of these politicians cave in a heartbeat, and that's wrong. That's why I really applaud these governors like Walker and Christie who are standing up for taxpayers and saying, look, it's time to rein this in. But it's collective bargaining that's doing it.
Got it. Tim Phillips, it's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
You bet.